Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Ni hao. Buenos dias. Heseche. Akwaba. Welcome. What up, though? This is the weekly Holy Scriptures recorded recitation for portion numero 20, which is Tetzaveh. The date today is approximately 124.6.13 semicolon 72 semicolon 1 nu 3. Again, the portion for this week is portion numero 20, Tetzaveh, which includes within the Torah Tetzaveh, which is Shmot 27, 20 a 30 días. Within the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Sankhya Yogahe, numero 2. Within the Digha Nikaya, it is the Mahanidana Sutta, numero 15. Within the Gospels, it is Mark, chapters 11 a 12. Within the Quran, it is Surah Al-Anbiya, which is 21. And within the Tao Te Ching, it is chapters 34 a 39. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Deus noster qui es in celis, sanctificator nomen tuum, vahegusanam. Dau kedau fehung dau. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Kyrie eleison. Sivumastu savajigatehi. Sabe sata bavantu sukitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabono. Fekako. Akwaba upendo na amani. Umejeka. Shishe. Como sunida. Domo arigato. Peluma yelo wakantoka. Talk odokashingu. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go remember God. At the Jama Yatafanami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Deus noster qui es in celis, sanctificator nomen tuum, vahegusanam. Dau kedau fehung dau. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher ketzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'asok b'davar Torah. Kyrie eleison. Sivumastu savajigatehi. Sabe sata bavantu sukitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabono. Fekako. Akwaba upendo na amani. Umejeka. Shishe. Como sonida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakantonka. Talk odokashingu. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Government God. At the Jama Yata Afanami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Amen. From Torah, Tetzaveh, Shmot 27, 20 a 30 días. And you shall command the children of Israel, and they shall take to you pure olive oil crushed for lighting, to kindle the lamps continually. In the tent of meeting outside the dividing curtain that is in front of the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall set it up before the Lord from evening to matin. It shall be an everlasting statute for their generations from the children of Israel. And you bring near to yourself your brother Aaron and his sons with him, from amongst the children of Israel, to serve me as Kohanim, Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar, Aaron's sons. You shall make holy garments for your brother Aaron for honor and glory. And you shall speak to all the wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, and they shall make Aaron's garments to sanctify him, so that he serve me as a Kohen. And these are the garments that they shall make: a choshen, an ephod, a robe, a tunic of checker work, a cap, and a sash. They shall make holy garments for your brother Aaron and for his sons to serve me as Kohanim. They shall take the gold, the blue, purple, and crimson wool, and the linen, and they shall make the ephod of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool, and twisted fine linen, the work of a master weaver. It shall have 2 connected shoulder straps at both its ends, and it shall be entirely connected. And its decorative band, which is above it, shall be of the same work emanating from it: gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool, and twisted fine linen. And you shall take 2 shocham stones, and engrave upon them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the names of the remaining 6 on the second stone, according to their births. Similar to the work of an engraver of gems, similar to the engravings of a seal, you shall engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall make them enclosed in gold settings. And you shall put the 2 stones upon the shoulder straps of the ephod as stones of remembrance for the sons of Israel. And Aaron shall carry their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders as a remembrance. And you shall make settings of gold, and 2 chains of pure gold. You will make them attached to the edges after the manner of cables, and you will place the cable chains upon the settings. You shall make a choshen of judgment, the work of a master weaver. You shall make it like the work of the ephod, of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool, and twisted fine linen shall you make it. It shall be square and doubled, its length 1 span, and its width 1 span. And you shall fill into it stone fillings, 4 rows of stones, 1 row, odem, piddah, and bareket. Thus shall the 1 row be. The second row, nefech, sapir, and yahalom. The third row, leshem, shavo, and achlama. And the 4th row, tarshish, shocham, and yeshveh. They shall be set in gold in their fillings. And the stone shall be for the names of the sons of Israel, 12 corresponding to their names, similar to the engravings of a seal. Every one according to his name shall they be for the 12 tribes. You shall make for the choshen chains at the edges of cable work of pure gold. You shall make for the choshen 2 golden rings, and you shall place the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the choshen. And you shall place the 2 golden cables on the 2 rings at the ends of the choshen. And the 2 ends of the 2 cables you shall place upon the 2 settings, and these you shall place upon the shoulder straps of the ephod on its front part. You shall make 2 golden rings, and you shall place them on the 2 ends of the choshen, and its edge that is towards the inner side of the ephod. And you shall make 2 golden rings and place them on the 2 shoulder straps of the ephod from below towards its front, adjacent to its seam above the band of the ephod. And they shall fasten the choshen by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a blue cord, so that it may be upon the band of the ephod, and the choshen will not move off the ephod. Thus shall Aaron carry the names of the sons of Israel in the choshen of judgment over his heart when he enters the holy, as remembrance before the Lord at all times. You shall place the Urim and the Tumim into the choshen of judgment, so that they will be over Aaron's heart when he comes before the Lord, and Aaron will carry the judgment of the children of Israel over his heart before the Lord at all times. And you shall make the robe of the ephod completely of blue wool. Its opening at the top shall be turned inwards. Its opening shall have a border around it, the work of a weaver. It shall have an opening like the opening of a coat of armor. It shall not be torn. And on its bottom hem you shall make pomegranates of blue, purple, and crimson wool on its bottom hem all around, and golden bells in their midst all around. A golden bell and a pomegranate. A golden bell and a pomegranate on the bottom hem of the robe all around. It shall be on Aaron when he performs the service, and its sound shall be heard when he enters the holy before the Lord, and when he leaves, so that he will not die. And you shall make a showplate of pure gold, and you shall engrave upon it like the engraving of a seal, holy to the Lord. And you shall place it upon a cord of blue wool, and it shall go over the cap, and it shall be opposite the front side of the cap. It shall be upon Aaron's forehead, and Aaron shall bear the iniquity of the holy things that the children of Israel sanctify for all their holy gifts. It shall be upon his forehead constantly to make them favorable before the Lord. You shall make the linen tunic of checker work, and you shall make a linen cap, and you shall make a sash of embroidery work. For Aaron's sons you shall make tunics, and make them sashes, and you shall make them high hats for honor and glory. With these you shall clothe Aaron your brother and his sons along with him, and you shall anoint them and invest them with full authority, and sanctify them, so that they may serve me as Kohanim. And make for them linen pants to cover the flesh of their nakedness. They shall reach from the waist down to the thighs. They shall be worn by Aaron and by his sons when they enter the tent of meeting, or when they approach the altar to serve in the holy, so they will not bear iniquity and die. It shall be a perpetual statute for him and for his descendants after him. And this is the thing that you shall do for them to sanctify them to serve me as Kohanim. Take 1 young bull and 2 rams, perfect ones, and unleavened bread and unleavened loaves mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil. You shall make them out of fine wheat flour. And you shall place them upon a basket, and you shall bring them in the basket, and the bull and the 2 rams. And you shall bring Aaron and his sons near the entrance of the tent of meeting, and you shall bathe them in water. And you shall take the garments and clothe Aaron with the tunic, with the robe of the ephod, and with the choshen, and you shall adorn him with the band of the ephod. You shall place the cap upon his head, and place the holy crown upon the cap. You shall take the anointing oil and pour it on his head, and anoint him. And you shall bring his sons near, and you shall clothe them with tunics. And you shall gird them with sashes, Aaron and his sons, and you shall dress them with high hats, and the kahuna will be a perpetual statute for them, and you shall invest Aaron and his sons with full authority. You shall bring the bull to the front of the tent of meeting, and Aaron and his sons shall lean their hands upon the head of the bull. You shall then slaughter the bull before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and you shall take some of the blood of the bull and apply it on the horns of the altar with your finger, and you shall pour out all the blood upon the base of the altar. You shall then take all the fat that covers the innards, and the diaphragm with the liver, and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is upon them, and make them go up in smoke upon the altar. But the flesh of the bull, its hide and its dung, you shall burn in fire outside the camp. It is a sin offering. And you shall take the 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lean their hands upon the ram's head. You shall slaughter the ram, and you shall take its blood and sprinkle it on the altar all around. And you shall dissect the ram into its parts, and you shall wash its innards and its legs, and put them with its parts and with its head. And you shall make the entire ram go up in smoke upon the altar. It is a burnt offering made to the Lord. It is a spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering for the Lord. And you shall take the 2nd ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lean their hands upon the ram's head. You shall slaughter the ram, take some of its blood, and put it upon the cartilage of Aaron's right ear, and upon the cartilage of Aaron's sons' right ears, upon the thumbs of their right hands, and upon the big toes of their right feet, and you shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar all around. You shall then take some of the blood that is upon the altar, and some of the anointing oil, and sprinkle it upon Aaron and upon his garments, upon his sons, and upon the garments of his sons with him. Thus he will become holy along with his garments, and his sons and their garments with him. And you shall take out of the ram the fat and the fat tail, and the fat that covers the innards, the diaphragm of the liver, the 2 kidneys, along with the fat that is upon them, and the right thigh, for it is a ram of perfection. And 1 loaf of bread, 1 loaf of oil bread, and 1 wafer from the basket of matzot that stands before the Lord. And you shall place it all upon Aaron's palms and upon his sons' palms, and you shall wave them as a waving before the Lord. You shall then take them from their hands, and make them go up in smoke upon the altar with a burnt offering as a spirit of satisfaction before the Lord. It is a fire offering for the Lord. And you shall take the breast of the ram of perfection, which is Aaron's, and wave it as a waving before the Lord, and it will become your portion. And you shall sanctify the breast of the waving and the thigh of the uplifting, which was waved and which was lifted up, of the ram of perfection, of that which is Aaron's and of that which is his sons. And so it shall remain for Aaron and his sons as a perpetual allotment from the children of Israel. For it is an offering, and it shall remain an offering from the children of Israel of their peace offerings. It is their offering to the Lord. The holy garments that are Aaron's shall be for his sons after him, to be exalted through them and invested with full authority through them. 7 days shall the one of his sons who will be the Kohen in his place wear them, the one who is to enter the tent of meeting to serve in the holy. You shall take the ram of perfection and cook its flesh in a holy place. Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket at the entrance of the tent of meeting. They shall eat those things with which atonement has been effected, in order to invest them with full authority to sanctify them, but a stranger shall not eat of them, because they are a sacred thing. If any of the flesh of the perfection offering or of the bread is left over until the next Matan, what is left over you shall burn in fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is a sacred thing. So shall you do to Aaron and his sons, according to all that I have commanded you. For 7 days you shall perform their investiture. And a bull as a sin offering you shall offer up every day for the atonements, and you shall purify the altar by performing atonement upon it, and you shall anoint it in order to sanctify it. For 7 days you shall perform atonement upon the altar and sanctify it. Henceforth the altar shall be a holy of holies. Whatever touches the altar will be holy. And this is what you shall offer upon the altar: lambs in their first year, 2 a day, continually. The one lamb you shall offer up in the matin, and the other lamb you shall offer up in the afternoon. And 1/10 of fine flour thoroughly mixed with 1/4 of a hin of crushed olive oil, and a libation of 1/4 of a hin of wine for the one lamb. And the other lamb you shall offer up in the afternoon. You shall offer it up like the meal offering of the matin, and its libation as a spirit of satisfaction, a fire offering to the Lord. It shall be a continual burnt offering for your generations at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord, where I will arrange meetings with you to speak to you there. There I will arrange meetings with the children of Israel, and it will be sanctified by my glory. I will sanctify the tent of meeting and the altar, and I will sanctify Aaron and his sons to serve me as Kohanim. I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and I will be their God. They will know that I, the Lord, am their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, in order that I may dwell in their midst. I am the Lord their God. You shall make an altar for bringing incense up in smoke. You shall make it out of acacia wood. It shall be 1 cubit long and 1 cubit wide, a square, and 2 cubits high. Its horn shall be one portion with it. You shall overlay it with pure gold, its top, its walls all around, and its horns. And you shall make for it a golden crown all around. You shall make 2 golden rings for it underneath its crown, and on its 2 corners. You shall make them on its 2 sides, so that it should serve as holders for poles with which to carry it. You shall make the poles out of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. And you shall place it in front of the dividing curtain, which is upon the ark of testimony, in front of the ark cover, which is upon the testimony, where I will arrange to meet with you. Aaron shall make incense of spices go up in smoke upon it. Every matin when he sets the lamp in order, he shall make it go up in smoke. And when Aaron kindles the lights in the afternoon, he shall make it go up in smoke, continual incense before the Lord for your generations. You shall offer up on it no alien incense, burnt offering or meal offering, and you shall pour no libation upon it. But Aaron shall make atonement upon its horns once a year, with the blood of the sin offering of the atonements. Once a year he shall effect atonement upon it for your generations. It is a holy of holies to the Lord. Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yogehe, número 2. Sanjaya said, to Arjuna, who was thus overwhelmed with pity, and whose troubled eyes were filled with tears, Madhusadana spoke these words. Sri Krishna said, in this crisis, O Arjuna, whence comes such lowness of spirit, unbecoming to an Aryan, dishonorable, and an obstacle to the attainment of heaven? Do not yield to unmanliness, O son of Pritha. It does not become you. Shake off this base faint-heartedness and arise, O scorcher of enemies. Arjuna said, But how, O destroyer of Madhu, O slayer of enemies, can I fight with arrows on the battlefield against Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my honor? It would be better indeed to live on alms in this world rather than to slay these high-souled teachers. But if I kill them, even here I shall enjoy wealth and desires stained with their blood. We do not know which would be better for us, that we should conquer them or they should conquer us. Arrayed against us stand the very sons of Dhritarashtra, after slaying whom we should not wish to live. Overpowered in the very essence of my being is by this evil of commiseration. My mind is confused about Dharma. I supplicate you. Tell me in sooth which is the better. I am your disciple. Instruct me, who have taken refuge in you. Indeed, I see not to destroy the grief that is drying up my very senses, even the attainment of unrivaled and unflourishing dominion on earth and mastership over the angels in heaven. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus to Hrishikesa, Arjuna, scorcher of foes, said to Govinda, I will not fight, and fell silent. O descendant of Bharata, to him grieving in the midst of the two armies, Hrishikesa, smiling, spoke these words. Sri Krishna said, You have been grieving for those who should not be grieved for, yet you speak words of wisdom. Neither for the living nor for the dead do the wise grieve. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you nor these kings of men. Never will there be a time hereafter when any of us shall cease to be. Even as the embodied self passes in this body through the stages of childhood, youth, and old age, so does it pass into another body. Calm souls are not bewildered by this. Notions of heat and cold, of pain and pleasure arise, O son of Kunti, only from contact of the senses with their objects. They come and go. They are impermanent. Endure them, O Bharata. That calm man who remains unchanged in pain and pleasure, whom these cannot disturb, alone is able, O greatest of men, to attain eternity. The unreal never is. The real never ceases to be. The conclusion about these two is truly perceived by the seers of truth. That by which all this is pervaded know to be imperishable. None can cause the destruction of that which is immutable. Only the bodies of which this eternally imperishable, incomprehensible self is the indweller are said to have an end. Fight therefore, O Bharata. He who looks on the self as the slayer, and he who looks on the self as the slain, neither of these apprehends aright. The self slays not, nor is slain. It is never born, nor does it ever die. Nor, having once been, does it again cease to be. Unborn, eternal, permanent, and primeval, it is not slain when the body is slain. He who knows the self to be indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable, how can that man, O son of Pritha, slay or cause another to slay? Even as a person casts off worn-out clothes and puts on others that are new, so the embodied self casts off worn-out bodies and enters into others that are new. Weapons cut it not, fire burns it not, water wets it not, the wind does not wither it. This self cannot be cut, nor burnt, nor wetted, nor withered. Eternal, all-pervading, unchanging, immovable, the self is the same forever. The self is said to be unmanifest, incomprehensible, and unchangeable. Therefore, knowing it to be so, you should not grieve. But if you think the self repeatedly comes into being and dies, even then, O mighty one, you should not grieve for it. For to that which is born death is certain, and to that which is dead birth is certain. Therefore you should not grieve over the unavoidable. All beings are unmanifest in their beginning, O Bharata, manifest in their middle state, and unmanifest again in their end. Why then lament for them? Some look on the self as a wonder, some speak of it as a wonder, some hear of it as a wonder. Still others, though hearing, do not understand it at all. The self which dwells in all bodies can never be slain, O Bharata. Wherefore you should not grieve for any creature. Considering also your own dharma, you should not waver. For a Kshatriya, nothing is better than a righteous war. Happy indeed are the Kshatriyas, O Partha, to whom comes such a war, offering itself unsought, opening the gate to heaven. But if you refuse to wage this righteous war, then renouncing your own dharma and honor, you will certainly incur sin. People too will recount forever your infamy, and to a man who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. The great warriors will think you have withdrawn from the battle through fear, and you will go down in the esteem of those who have thought much of you. Your enemies will speak many a word that should not be uttered, scorning your prowess. Could anything be further bitter than that? If you are killed in the battle, you will go to the heaven. If you win, you will enjoy the earth. Therefore arise, O son of Kunti, resolve to fight. Regarding alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, success and defeat, prepare yourself for battle. Thus you will incur no sin. What has been declared to you is the wisdom of Samkhya. Now listen to the wisdom of yoga, armed with which, O son of Prita, you will break through the bonds of karma. In this, no effort is ever lost and no harm is ever done. Even very little of this dharma saves a man from the great fear. In this, O scion of Kuru, there is only one resolute and unwavering thought, but the thoughts of the irresolute are many branched and unending. O Partha, no resolute or unwavering thought is formed in the minds of those who are deeply attached to pleasure and power, who allow their discrimination to be stolen away by the flowery words of the unwise, who permit their souls to be ridden with desires, who regard the attainment of heaven as the highest goal, and who take great delight in quoting the panegyric texts of the Vedas, and declare that besides these there is nothing. These texts promise rebirths as the reward of their action and lay down specific rites for the attainment of pleasure and power. The Vedas deal with the three gunas. Be free, O Arjuna, from the three gunas. Be free from the pairs of opposites. Be always established in sattva. Do not try to acquire what you lack or preserve what you have. Be established in the self. To the enlightened Brahmin, all the Vedas are of as much use as a pond when there is everywhere a flood. To work alone you are entitled, never to its fruit. Neither let your motive be the fruit of action, nor let your attachment be to non-action. Being established in yoga, O Dhananjaya, perform your actions casting off attachment and remaining even-minded both in success and in failure. This evenness is called yoga. Much inferior indeed is mere action, O Dhananjaya, to action performed with evenness of mind. Seek refuge in this evenness. Wretched are they who work for results. Endued with evenness of mind, one casts off in this very life both benevolent deeds and evil deeds. Therefore strive for yoga. Yoga is skill in action. The wise of even mind renounce the fruit of action. Freed from the fetters of birth, they attain the state that is beyond all evil. When your mind has crossed the slough of delusion, you will achieve indifference regarding things already heard and things yet to be heard. When your mind, now perplexed by what you have heard, stands firm and steady in the self, then you will have attained yoga. Arjuna said, What, O Kesava, is the description of the man of steady wisdom merged in samadhi? How does the man of steady wisdom speak, how sit, how move? Sri Krishna said, O Partha, when a man completely casts off all the desires of the mind, his self finding satisfaction in itself alone, then he is called a man of steady wisdom. He who is not perturbed by adversity, who does not long for happiness, who is free from attachment, fear, and wrath, is called a Muni of steady wisdom. He who is not attached to anything, who neither rejoices nor is vexed when he obtains benevolence or evil, his wisdom is firmly fixed. When he completely withdraws the senses from their objects as a tortoise draws in its limbs, then his wisdom is firmly fixed. The objects of the senses fall away from a man practicing abstinence, but not the taste for them. But even the taste falls away when the Supreme is seen. The turbulent senses, O son of Kunti, violently carry off the mind even of a wise man striving for perfection. The yogi restrains them all and remains intent on me. His wisdom is steady, whose senses are under control. When a man dwells on objects, he feels an attachment for them. Attachment gives rise to desire, and desire breeds anger. From anger comes delusion, from delusion the failure of memory, from the failure of memory the ruin of discrimination, and from the ruin of discrimination the man perishes. The man of self-control, moving amongst objects with his senses under restraint and free from attachment and hate, attains serenity of mind. In that serenity there is an end of all sorrow, for the intelligence of the man of serene mind soon becomes steady. The man whose mind is not under his control has no self-knowledge and no contemplation either. Without contemplation he can have no peace, and without peace how can he have happiness? For even one of the roving senses, if the mind yields to it, carries away discrimination as a gale carries away a ship on the waters. Therefore, O mighty Arjuna, his wisdom is steady, whose senses are completely restrained from their objects. And that which is night to all beings, the man of self-control is awake. And where all beings are awake, there is night for the Muni who sees. Not the desire of desires attains peace, but he into whom all desires enter as the waters enter the ocean, which is full to the brim and grounded in stillness. That man who lives completely free from desires, without longing, devoid of the sense of I and mine, attains peace. This is the Brahmic state, O son of Prita. Attaining it, one is no longer deluded. Being established therein, even in the hour of death, one attains final liberation in Brahman. From the Digha Nikaya, the Mahanidana Sutta, numero 15. Thus have I heard. On one occasion the Exalted One was living amongst the Kurus, where there was a town of the Kurus named Kamasadama. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Exalted One, paid homage to him, and sat down to one side. Seated, he said to the Exalted One, "It is wonderful and marvelous, Venerable Sir, how this dependent arising is so deep and appears so deep, yet to myself it seems as clear can be." "Do not say so, Ananda. Do not say so, Ananda. This dependent arising, Ananda, is deep, and it appears deep. Because of not understanding and not penetrating this Dharma, Ananda, this generation has become like a tangled skein, like a knotted ball of thread, like matted rushes and reeds, and does not pass beyond samsara with its plane of misery, unfortunate destinations, and lower realms. Ananda, if one is asked, are aging and death due to a specific condition, one should say they are. If one is asked through what condition is there aging and death, one should say, with birth as condition there is aging and death. Ananda, if one is asked, is birth due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there birth, one should say, with existence as condition there is birth. Ananda, if one is asked, is existence due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there existence, one should say, with clinging as condition there is existence. Ananda, if one is asked, is clinging due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there clinging, one should say, with craving as condition there is clinging. Ananda, if one is asked, is craving due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there craving, one should say, with feeling as condition there is craving. Ananda, if one is asked, is feeling due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there feeling, one should say, with contact as condition there is feeling. Ananda, if one is asked, is contact due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there contact, one should say, with mentality, materiality as condition there is contact. Ananda, if one is asked, is mentality, materiality due to a specific condition, one should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there mentality, materiality, one should say, with consciousness as condition there is mentality, materiality. Ananda, if one is asked, is consciousness due to a specific condition? One should say, it is. If one is asked, through what condition is there consciousness? One should say, with materiality as condition, there is consciousness. Thus, Ananda, with materiality as condition, there is consciousness. With consciousness as condition, there is materiality. With materiality as condition, there is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. With feeling as condition, there is craving. With craving as condition, there is clinging. With clinging as condition, there is existence. With existence as condition, there is birth. And with birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair come to be. Such is the origin of this entire mass of suffering. It was said, with birth as condition, there is aging and death. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no birth of any kind anywhere, that is, of angels into the state of angels, of celestials into the state of celestials, of spirits, demons, human beings, quadrupeds, winged creatures, and reptiles, each into their own state. If there were no birth of beings of any sort into any state, then, in the complete absence of birth, with the cessation of birth, would aging and death be discerned? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for aging and death, namely birth. It was said, with existence as condition, there is birth. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no existence of any kind anywhere, that is, no sense spheres existence, fine material existence, or immaterial existence, then in the complete absence of existence, with the cessation of existence, would birth be discerned? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for birth, namely existence. It was said, with clinging as condition, there is existence. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no clinging of any kind anywhere, that is, no clinging to sense pleasures, clinging to views, clinging to precepts and observances, or clinging to a doctrine of self, then in the complete absence of clinging, with the cessation of clinging, would existence be discerned? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for existence, namely clinging. It was said, with craving as condition, there is clinging. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no craving of any kind anywhere, that is, no craving for visible forms, craving for sounds, craving for smells, craving for tastes, craving for tangibles, or craving for mental objects, then in the complete absence of craving, with the cessation of craving, would clinging be discerned? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for clinging, namely craving. It was said, with feeling as condition, there is craving. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no feeling of any kind anywhere, that is, no feeling born of eye contact, feeling born of ear contact, feeling born of nose contact, feeling born of tongue contact, feeling born of body contact, or feeling born of mind contact, then in the complete absence of feeling, with a cessation of feeling, would craving be discerned? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for craving, namely feeling. Thus, Ananda, in dependence upon feeling there is craving, in dependence upon craving there is pursuit, in dependence of pursuit there is gain, in dependence of gain there is decision-making, in dependence of decision-making there is desire and lust, in dependence of desire and lust there is attachment, in dependence of attachment there is possessiveness, in dependence of possessiveness there is stinginess, in dependence of stinginess there is safeguarding, and because of safeguarding, various evil, unwholesome phenomena originate, the taking up of clubs and weapons, conflicts, quarrels and disputes, insulting speech, slander, and falsehoods. It was said, because of safeguarding, various evil, unwholesome phenomena originate, the taking up of clubs and weapons, conflicts, quarrels, and disputes, insulting speech, slander, and falsehoods. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no safeguarding of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of safeguarding, with the cessation of safeguarding, would those various evil, unwholesome phenomena originate? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for those various evil, unwholesome phenomena, namely safeguarding. It was said, in dependence upon stinginess, there is safeguarding. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no stinginess of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of stinginess, with the cessation of stinginess, would safeguarding be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Ananda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for safeguarding, namely stinginess. It was said, in dependence upon possessiveness, there is stinginess. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no possessiveness of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of possessiveness, with the cessation of possessiveness, would stinginess be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Ananda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for stinginess, namely possessiveness. It was said, in dependence upon attachment, there is possessiveness. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no attachment of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of attachment, with the cessation of attachment, would possessiveness be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for possessiveness, namely attachment. It was said, in dependence upon desire and lust, there is attachment. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no desire and lust of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of desire and lust, with the cessation of desire and lust, would attachment be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Ananda, this is the cause, source, origin, and conflict. Therefore, Ananda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for attachment, namely desire and lust. It was said, in dependence upon decision-making, there is desire and lust. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no decision-making of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of decision-making, with the cessation of decision-making, would desire and lust be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for desire and lust, namely decision-making. It was said, in dependence upon gain, there is decision-making. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no gain of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of gain, with the cessation of gain, would decision-making be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for decision-making, namely gain. It was said, in dependence upon pursuit, there is gain. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no pursuit of any kind anywhere, then, in the complete absence of pursuit, with the cessation of pursuit, would gain be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for gain, namely pursuit. It was said, in dependence upon craving, there is pursuit. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no craving of any kind anywhere, that is, no craving for sense pleasures, craving for existence, or craving for non-existence, then, in the complete absence of craving, with the cessation of craving, would pursuit be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for pursuit, namely craving. Thus, Ananda, these two phenomena being a duality converge into a unity in feeling. It was said, with contact as condition there is feeling. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If there were absolutely and utterly no contact of any kind anywhere, that is, no eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, tongue contact, body contact, or mind contact, then, in the complete absence of contact, with the cessation of contact, would feeling be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for feeling, namely contact. It was said, with mentality and materiality as condition, there is contact. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If those qualities, traits, signs, and indicators through which there is a description of the mental body were all absent, would designation contact be discerned in the material body? Certainly not, venerable sir. If those qualities, traits, signs, and indicators through which there is a description of the material body were all absent, would impingement contact be discerned in the mental body? Certainly not, venerable sir. If those qualities, traits, signs, and indicators through which there is a description of the mental body and the material body were all absent, would either designation contact or impingement contact be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. If those qualities, traits, signs, and indicators through which there is a description of mentality, materiality were all absent, would contact be discerned? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for contact, namely mentality, materiality. It was said, with consciousness as condition, there is mentality, materiality. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If consciousness were not to descend into the Moor's womb, would mentality, materiality take shape in the womb? Certainly not, venerable sir. If after descending into the womb, consciousness were to depart, would mentality, materiality be generated into this present state of being? Certainly not, venerable sir. If the consciousness of a young boy or girl were to be cut off, would mentality, materiality grow up, develop, and reach maturity? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for mentality and materiality, namely consciousness. It was said, with mentality materiality as condition, there is consciousness. How that is so, Ananda, should be understood in this way. If consciousness were not to gain a footing in mentality materiality, would an origination of the mass of suffering, of future birth, aging, and death be discerned? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Nanda, this is the cause, source, origin, and condition for consciousness, namely mentality materiality. It is to this extent, Ananda, that one can be born, age and die, pass away and re-arise, to this extent that there is a pathway for designation, to this extent that there is a pathway for language, to this extent that there is a pathway for description, to this extent that there is a sphere for wisdom, to this extent that the round turns for describing the state of being, that is, when there is mentality materiality together with consciousness. In what ways, Nanda, does one describing self describe it? Describing self as having material form and as limited, one describes it thus. Myself has material form and is limited, or describing self as having material form and as infinite, one describes it thus. Myself has material form and is infinite. Or describing self as immaterial and limited, one describes it thus. Myself is immaterial and limited. Or describing self as immaterial and infinite, one describes it thus. Myself is immaterial and infinite. Therein, Ananda, one who describes self as having material form and as limited either describes such a self as existing only in the present, or he describes such a self as existing there in the future, or he thinks, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as having material form and as limited underlies this. One who describes self as having material form and as infinite neither describes such a self as existing only in the present, or he describes such a self as existing there in the future, or he thinks, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as having material form and as infinite underlies this. One who describes self as immaterial and limited either describes such a self as existing only in the present, or he describes such a self as existing there in the future, or he thinks, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as immaterial and limited underlies this. One who describes self as immaterial and infinite either describes such a self as existing only in the present, or he describes such a self as existing there in the future, or he thinks, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as immaterial and infinite underlies this. It is in these ways, Ananda, that one describing self describes it. In what ways, Ananda, does one not describing self not describe it? Not describing self as having material form and as limited, one does not describe it thus. Myself has material form and is limited. Or not describing self as having material form and as infinite, one does not describe it thus. Myself has material form and is infinite. Or not describing self as immaterial and limited, one does not describe it thus. Myself is immaterial and limited. Or not describing self as immaterial and infinite, one does not describe it thus. Myself is immaterial and infinite. Therein, Ananda, one who does not describe self as having material form and as limited does not describe such a self as existing only in the present, nor does he describe such a self as existing there in the future, nor does he think, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as having material form and as limited does not underlie this. One who does not describe self as having material form and as infinite does not describe such a self as existing only in the present, nor does he describe such a self as existing there in the future, nor does he think, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as having material form and as infinite does not underlie this. One who does not describe self as immaterial and limited does not describe such a self as existing only in the present, nor does he describe such a self as existing there in the future, nor does he think, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as immaterial and limited does not underlie this. One who describes self as immaterial and infinite does not describe such a self as existing only in the present, nor does he describe such a self as existing there in the future, nor does he think, that which is not thus I will convert towards the state of being thus. This being so, it can aptly be said that a settled view of self as immaterial and infinite does not underlie this. It is in these ways, Ananda, that one not describing self does not describe it. In what ways, Ananda, does one considering the idea of self consider it? One considering the idea of self either considers feeling as self, saying feeling is myself, or he considers feeling is not myself, myself is without experience of feeling, or he considers feeling is not myself, but myself is not mere feeling is not myself, but myself is not without experience of feeling. Myself feels, for myself is subject to feeling. Therein, Ananda, the one who says feeling is myself should be asked, friend, there are these three kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Of these three kinds of feeling, which do you consider as self? Ananda, on the occasion when one experiences a pleasant feeling, one does not on that same occasion experience a painful feeling, or a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. On that occasion, one experiences only a pleasant feeling. On the occasion when one experiences a painful feeling, one does not on that same occasion experience a pleasant feeling or a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. On that occasion, one experiences only a painful feeling. On the occasion when one experiences a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one does not on that same occasion experience a pleasant feeling or a painful feeling. On that occasion, one experiences only a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Ananda, pleasant feeling is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, subject to destruction, falling away, fading out, and ceasing. Painful feeling is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, subject to destruction, falling away, fading out, and ceasing. Neither painful nor pleasant feeling is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen, subject to destruction, falling away, fading out, and ceasing. If, when experiencing a pleasant feeling, one thinks this is myself, then with the ceasing of that pleasant feeling, one thinks myself has disappeared. If, when experiencing a painful feeling, one thinks this is myself, then with the ceasing of that painful feeling, one thinks myself has disappeared. If, when experiencing a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one thinks this is myself, then with the ceasing of that neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one thinks myself has disappeared. Thus, one who says feeling is myself considers as self something which even here and now is impermanent, a mixture of pleasure and pain, and subject to arising and falling away. Therefore, Nanda, because of this, it is not acceptable to consider feeling is myself. Ananda, the one who says feeling is not myself, myself is without experience of feeling, he should be asked, friend, where there is nothing at all that is felt, could the idea I am occur there? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, because of this, it is not acceptable to consider feeling is not myself, myself is without experience of feeling. Ananda, the one who says feeling is not myself, but myself is not without experience of feeling. Myself feels, for myself is subject to feeling. He should be asked, friend, if feeling were to cease absolutely and utterly without remainder, then in the complete absence of feeling, with the cessation of feeling, could the idea I am this occur there? Certainly not, venerable sir. Therefore, Nanda, because of this, it is not acceptable to consider feeling is not myself, myself is not without experience of feeling. Myself feels, for myself is subject to feeling. Ananda, when a bhikshu does not consider feeling as self and does not consider self as without experience of feeling and does not consider myself feels, for myself is subject to feeling, then being without such considerations, he does not cling to anything in the world. Not clinging, he is not agitated. Not being agitated, he personally attains nibbana. He understands. Destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no returning to this state of being. Ananda, if anyone should say of a bhikshu whose mind has been thus liberated that he holds the view a Tathagata exists after death, that would not be proper, or that he holds the view a Tathagata does not exist after death, that would not be proper, or that he holds the view a Tathagata both exists and does not exist after death, that would not be proper, or that he holds the view a Tathagata neither exists nor does not exist after death, that would not be proper. For what reason? Because that bhikshu is liberated by directly knowing this. The extent of designation and the extent of the pathway for designation, the extent of language and the extent of the pathway for language, the extent of description and the extent of the pathway for description, the extent of wisdom and the extent of the sphere for wisdom, the extent of the round and the extent to which the round turns. To say of a bhikshu who is liberated by directly knowing this that he holds the view one does not know and does not see, that would not be proper. Ananda, there are these 7 stations for consciousness and 2 bases. What are the 7? There are, Ananda, beings who are diverse in body and diverse in perception, such as human beings, some angels, and some beings in the lower realms. This is the first station for consciousness. There are beings who are diverse in body but identical in perception, such as the angels of the Brahma order who are generated through the verse jhana. This is the second station for consciousness. There are beings who are identical in body but diverse in perception, such as the angels of streaming radiance. This is the third station for consciousness. There are beings who are identical in body and identical in perception, such as the angels of refulgent beauty. This is the fourth station for consciousness. There are beings who, through the complete surmounting of perceptions of material form, the passing away of perceptions of impingement, and non-attention to perceptions of diversity, contemplating space as infinite, arrive at the base of the infinity of space. This is the fifth station for consciousness. There are beings who, having completely surmounted the base of the infinity of space, contemplating consciousness as infinite, arrive at the base of the infinity of consciousness. This is the sixth station for consciousness. There are beings who, having completely surmounted the base of the infinity of consciousness, contemplating there is nothing, arrive at the base of nothingness. This is the seventh station for consciousness. The base of non-percipient beings, and second, the base of neither perception nor non-perception. These are the two bases. Therein, Ananda, if one understands the first station for consciousness, that of beings who are diverse in body and diverse in perception, and if one understands its origin, its passing away, its satisfaction, its unsatisfactoriness, and the escape from it, is it proper for one to seek enjoyment in it? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. If one understands the remaining stations for consciousness, the base of non-percipient beings, the base of neither perception nor non-perception, if one understands its origin, its passing away, its satisfaction, its unsatisfactoriness, and the escape from it, is it proper for one to seek enjoyment in it? Certainly not, Venerable Sir. Ananda, when a bhikshu, having understood as they truly are, the origin, passing away, satisfaction, unsatisfactoriness, and escape in regard to these seven stations for consciousness, and two bases, is liberated through non-clinging, then he is called a bhikshu, liberated by wisdom. Ananda, there are these 8 emancipations. What are the 8? One possessing material forms sees material forms. This is the first emancipation. One not perceiving material forms internally sees material forms externally. This is the second emancipation. One is released from the idea of the beautiful. This is the third emancipation. Through the complete surmounting of perceptions of material form, the passing away of perceptions of impingement, and non-attention to perceptions of diversity, contemplating space as infinite, one enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of space. This is the fourth emancipation. Having completely surmounted the base of the infinity of space, contemplating consciousness as infinite, one enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of consciousness. This is the fifth emancipation. Having completely surmounted the base of the infinity of consciousness, contemplating there is nothing, one enters and dwells in the base of nothingness. This is the sixth emancipation. Having completely surmounted the base of nothingness, one enters and dwells in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. This is the seventh emancipation. Having completely surmounted the base of neither perception nor non-perception, one enters and dwells in the cessation of perception and feeling. This is the eighth emancipation. Ananda, when a bhikshu attains these 8 emancipations in forward order and reverse order, and in both forward and reverse order, when he attains them and emerges from them wherever he wants, in whatever way he wants, and for as long as he wants, and when, through the destruction of the cankers, he here and now enters and dwells in the cankerless liberation of mind, liberation by wisdom, having realized it for himself with direct knowledge, then he is called a bhikshu, who is liberated in both ways. And Ananda, there is no other liberation in both ways higher or further sublime than this one. Thus spoke the Exalted One. The Venerable Ananda, being pleased, rejoiced in the Exalted One's words. Gospels, Mark 11:12. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethpage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and just as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you why you are doing this, Say, the master needs it and will send it back here shortly. They went and found a colt outside in the street, tied at a doorway. As they untied it, some people standing there asked, "What are you doing untying that colt?" They answered as Jesus had told them to, and the people let them go. When they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks over it, he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, whilst others spread branches they had cut in the fields. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of God. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." Jesus entered Jerusalem and went into the temple courts. He looked around at everything, but since it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him say it. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. When evening came, Jesus and his disciples went out of the city. In the matin, as they went along, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered." "Have faith in God," Jesus answered. "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you speak for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Creator in heaven may forgive you your sins." They arrived again in Jerusalem, and whilst Jesus was walking in the temple courts, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders came to him. "By what authority are you doing these things?" they asked. "And who gave you authority to do this?" Jesus replied, "I will ask you one question. Answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I am doing these things. John's baptism, was it from heaven or of human origin? Tell me." They discussed it amongst themselves and said, "If we say from heaven," he will ask, "then why didn't you believe him? But if we say of human origin," they feared the people, for everyone held that John truly was a prophet. So they answered Jesus, "We don't know." Jesus said, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." Jesus then began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a pit for the winepress, and built a watchtower. Then he rented the vineyard to some tillers and moved to another place. At harvest time he sent a servant to the tenants to collect from them some of the fruit of the vineyard. But they seized him, beat him, and sent him away empty-handed. Then he sent another servant to them. They struck this man on the head and treated him shamefully. He sent still another, and that one they killed. He sent many others. Some of them they beat, others they killed. He had one left to send, a son whom he loved. He sent him last of all, saying, "They will respect my son." But the tenants said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. What then will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Haven't you read the passage of Scripture? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. God has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Then the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders looked for a way to arrest him, because they knew he had spoken the parable against them. But they were afraid of the crowd, so they left him and went away. Later, they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we?" But Jesus knew their hypocrisy. "Why are you trying to trap me?" he asked. "Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." They brought the coin, and he asked them, "Whose image is this, and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then Jesus said to them, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." And they were amazed at him. Then the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him with a question. "Teacher," they said, "Moshe wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife but no children, the man must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother." Now there were 7 brothers. The first one married and died without leaving any children. The second one married the widow, but he also died, leaving no children. It was the same with the third. In fact, none of the 7 left any children. Last of all, the woman died too. At the resurrection, whose wife will she be, since the 7 were married to her? Jesus replied, Are you not in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God? When the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven. Now about the dead rising, have you not read in the book of Moshe, in the account of the burning bush, how God said to him, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzhak, and the God of Yaakov. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are badly mistaken. When the teachers of the law came and heard them debating, noticing that Jesus had given them a benevolent answer, he asked him, Of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, Jesus answered, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Well said, teacher, the man replied. You are right in saying that God is one and there is no other but God. To love God with all your heart and with all your understanding and with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is further important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices. When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, You are not distant from the sovereignty of God. And from then on, no one dared ask him any further questions. Whilst Jesus was teaching in the temple courts, he asked, Why do the teachers of the law say that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself, speaking by the Holy Spirit, declared, God said to my master, Sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. David himself calls him master. How then can he be his son? The large crowd listened to him with delight. As he taught, Jesus said, Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely. Jesus sat down opposite the place where offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put further into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. Quran, Surah Al-Abiyah. Numero 21. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Closer and closer to mankind comes their reckoning, yet they heed not and they turn away. Never comes aught to them of a renewed message from their Lord, but they listen to it as in jest. Their hearts toying as with trifles. The wrongdoers conceal their private counsels, saying, Is this one further than a man like yourselves? Will ye go to witchcraft with your eyes open? Say, My Lord knoweth every word spoken in the heavens and on earth. Allah is the one that heareth and knoweth all things. Nay, they say, These are medleys of dreams. Nay, he forged it. Nay, he is but a poet. Let him then bring us a sign like the ones that were sent to prophets of old. As to those before them, not one of the populations which we destroyed believed. Will these believe? Before thee also the apostles we sent were but men, to whom we granted inspiration. If you realize this not, ask of those who possess the message. Nor did we give them bodies that ate no food, nor were they exempt from death. In the end we fulfilled to them our promise, and we saved them and those whom we pleased. But we destroyed those who transgressed beyond bounds. We have revealed for you, O men, a book in which is a message for you. Will ye not then understand? How many were the populations we utterly destroyed because of their iniquities, setting up in their places other peoples? Yet when they felt our punishment coming, behold, they tried to flee from it. Flee not, but return to the benevolent things of this life which were given you, and to your homes, in order that ye may be called to account. They said, O woe to us, we were indeed wrongdoers. And that cry of theirs ceased not, till we made them as a field that is mown, as ashes, silent and quenched. Not for idle sport did we create the heavens and the earth and all that is between. If it had been our wish to take just a pastime, we should surely have taken it from the things nearest to us. If we would do such a thing. Nay, we hurl the truth against falsehood, and it knocks out its brain, and behold, falsehood doth perish. Ah, woe be to you for the false things ye ascribe to us. To Allah belong all creatures in the heavens and on earth, even those who are in Allah's very presence are not too proud to serve Allah, nor are they ever weary of Allah's service. They celebrate Allah's praises night and day, nor do they ever flag or intermit. Or have they taken for worship deities from the earth who can raise the dead? If there were in the heavens and the earth other deities besides Allah, there would have been confusion in both. But glory to Allah, the Lord of the throne. High is Allah above what they attribute to Allah. He cannot be questioned for Allah's acts, but they will be questioned for theirs. Or have they taken for worship other deities besides Allah? Allah cannot be questioned for Allah's acts, but they will be questioned for theirs. Or have they taken for worship other deities besides Allah? Say, bring your convincing proof. This is the message of those with me and the message of those before me. But most of them know not the truth, and so turn away. Not apostle did we send before thee without inspiration sent by us to him, that there is no deity but I. Therefore worship and serve me. And they say, Allah most gracious has begotten offspring. Glory to Allah, they are but servants raised to honor. They speak not before Allah speaks, and they act in all things by Allah's command. Allah knows what is before them and what is behind them, and they offer no intercession except for those who are acceptable, and they stand in awe and reverence of Allah's glory. If any of them should say, I am a deity besides Allah, such a one we should reward withheld. Thus do we reward those who do wrong. Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation before we clove them asunder? We make from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? And we have sent on the earth mountains standing firm, lest it should shake with them. And we have made therein broad highways between mountains for them to pass through, that they may receive guidance. And we have made the heavens as a canopy well guarded, yet do they turn away from the signs which these things point to. It is Allah who created the night and the day, and the soleil and the moon. All the celestial bodies swim along, each in rounded course. We granted not to any man before thee permanent life here. If then thou shouldst die, would they live permanently? Every soul shall have a taste of death, and we test you by evil and by benevolence by way of trial. To us must ye return. When the unbelievers see thee, they treat thee not except with ridicule. Is this, they say, the one who talks of your deities? And they blaspheme at the mention of Allah, most gracious. Man is a creature of haste. Soon enough will I show you my signs. Then ye will not ask me to hasten them. They say, when will this promise come to pass, if ye are telling the truth? If only the unbelievers knew the time when they will not be able to ward off the fire from their faces, nor yet from their backs, and when no help can reach them. Nay, it may come to them all of a sudden and confound them. No power will they have then to avert it, nor will they then get respite. Mocked were many apostles before thee, but their scoffers were hemmed in by the thing that they mocked. Say, who can keep you safe by night and by day from the wrath of Allah most gracious? Yet they turn away from the mention of their Lord. Or have they deities that can guard them from us? They have no power to aid themselves, nor can they be defended from us. Nay, we gave the benevolent things of this life to these men and their fathers until the period grew long for them. See they not that we gradually reduce the land in their control from its outlying borders? Is it then they who will win? Say, I do but warn you according to revelation, but the deaf will not hear the call, even when they are warned. If but a breath of the wrath of thy Lord do touch them, they will then say, woe to us, we did wrong indeed. We shall set up scales of justice for the judge of judgment, so that not a soul will be dealt with unjustly in the least, and if there be no further than the weight of a mustard seed, we will bring it to account, and enough are we to take account. In the past we granted to Moshe and Aaron the criterion for judgment, and a light and a message for those who do right, those who fear their Lord in their most secret thoughts, and who hold the hour of judgment in awe. And this is a blessed message we have sent down. Will ye then reject it? We bestowed aforetime on Abraham his rectitude of conduct, and well were we acquainted with him. Behold, he said to his father and his people, What are these images to which ye are so assiduously devoted? They said, We found our fathers worshipping them. He said, Indeed, ye have been in manifest error, ye and your fathers. They said, Have you brought us the truth, or are you one of those who jest? He said, Nay, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, Allah who created them from nothing, and I am a witness to this truth. And by Allah, I have a plan for your idols after ye go away and turn your backs. So he broke them into parts, all but the biggest of them, that they might turn and address themselves to it. They said, Who has done this to our deities? He must indeed be some man of impiety. They said, We heard a youth talk of them. He is called Abraham. They said, Then bring him before the eyes of the people, that they may bear witness. They said, Art thou the one that did this with our deities, O Abraham? He said, Nay, this was done by this. This is their biggest one. Ask them if they can speak intelligently. So they turned to themselves and said, Surely we are the ones in the wrong. Then were they confounded with shame. They said, Thou knowest full well that these idols do not speak. Abraham said, Do ye then worship besides Allah things that can neither be of any benevolence to you, nor do you harm? Fie upon you, and upon the things that ye worship besides Allah. Have ye no sense? They said, Burn him and protect your deities, if ye do anything at all. We said, O fire, be thou cool, and a means of safety for Abraham. Then they sought a stratagem against him, but we made them the ones that lost most. But we delivered him and his nephew Lot, and directed them to the land which we have blessed for the nations. And we bestowed on him Yitzhak, and as an additional gift a grandson, Yaakov. And we made righteous men of every one of them. And we made them lenders, guiding men by our command, and we sent them inspiration to do benevolent deeds, to establish regular prayers, and to practice regular charity. And they constantly served us, and us only. And to Lot too we gave a judgment and knowledge, and we saved him from the town which practiced abominations. Truly they were a people given to evil, a rebellious people. And we admitted him to our mercy, for he was one of the righteous. Remember Noah, when he cried to us aforetime, we listened to his prayer and delivered him as his family from distress. We helped him against people who rejected our signs. Truly they were a people given to evil, so we drowned them in the flood altogether. And remember David and Solomon, when they gave judgment in the matter of the field into which the sheep of certain people had strayed by night. We did witness their judgment. To Solomon we inspired the right understanding of the matter. To each of them we gave judgment and knowledge. It was our power that made the hills and the birds celebrate our praises, celebrate our honor with David. It was we who did all these things. It was we who taught him the making of coats of mail for your benefit, to guard you from each other's violence. We then be grateful. It was our power that made the violent unruly wind flow tamely for Solomon to his order, to the land which we had blessed, for we do know all things. And of the evil ones were some who dived for him and did other work besides, and it was we who guarded them. And remembered Job, when he cried to his Lord, Truly distress has seized me, but thou art the most merciful of those that are merciful. So we listened to him, and we removed the distress that was on him, and we restored his people to him, and doubled their number, as a grace from ourselves, and a thing for commemoration for all who serve us. And remember Ishmael, Idris, and Zulkifl, all men of constancy and patience. We admitted them to our mercy, for they were of the right ones. And remember Zunun, When he departed in wrath, he imagined that we had no power over him. But he cried through the depths of darkness, there is no deity but thou. Glory be to thee. I was indeed wrong. So we listened to him and delivered him from distress, and thus do we deliver those who have faith. And remember Zechariah when he cried to his Lord, O my Lord, leave me not without offspring, though thou art the best of inheritors. So we listened to him, and we granted him Yahya. We cursed his wife's barrenness for him. These three were ever quick in emulation in benevolent works. They used to call on us with love and reverence and humble themselves before us. And remember her who guarded her chastity. We breathed into her of our spirit, and we made her of her and her son a sign for all peoples. Verily, this brotherhood of yours is a single brotherhood, and I am your Lord and cherisher, therefore serve me and no other. But later generations cut off their affair of unity one from another, yet will they all return to us. Whoever works any act of righteousness and has faith, his endeavor will not be rejected. We shall record it in his favor. But there is a ban on any population which we have destroyed, that they shall not return until the Gog and the Magog people are let through their barrier, and they swiftly swarm from every hill. Then will the true promise draw nigh of fulfillment. Then behold, the eyes of the unbelievers will fixedly stare in horror. Ah, woe to us! We were indeed heedless of this. Nay, we truly did wrong. Verily, ye unbelievers and the false deities that ye worship besides Allah are but fuel for hell. To it will ye surely come. If these had been deities, they would not have got there, but each one will abide therein. Their sobbing will be their lot, nor will their sobbing will be their lot, nor will they there hear aught else. Those for whom the benevolent record from us has gone before will be removed distantly therefrom. Not the slightest sound will they hear of hell. What their souls desired, in that will they dwell. The great terror will bring them no grief, but the angels will meet them with mutual greetings. This is your day, the day you were promised. The day that we roll up the heavens like a scroll rolled up for books completed. Even as we produced the first creation, so shall we produce a new one. A promise we have undertaken, truly shall we fulfill it. Before this we wrote in the Psalms after the message given to Moshe, my servants the righteous shall inherit the earth. Verily in this Quran is a message for people who truly worship Allah. We sent thee not but as a mercy for all creatures. Say, what has come to me by inspiration is that your Allah is one Allah. Will ye therefore bow to Allah's will in Islam? But if they turn back, say, I have proclaimed the message to you, all alike and in truth. But I know not whether that it which ye are promised is near or distant. It is Allah who knows what is open in speech and what ye hide in your hearts. I know not but that it may be a trial for you, and a grant of worldly livelihood to you for a time. Say, O my Lord, judge thou in truth. Our Lord, most gracious, is the one whose assistance should be sought against the blasphemies ye utter. Tao Te Ching 34-39. The great Tao is like a flood. It can flow to the left or to the right. The myriad things depend on it for life, but it never stops. It achieves its work, but does not take credit. It clothes and feeds myriad things, but does not rule over them. Ever desiring nothing, it can be named insignificant. Myriad things return to it, but it does not rule over them. It can be named great. Even in the end, it does not regard itself as great. That is how it can achieve its greatness. Hold the great image. All under heaven will come. They will come without harm, in harmonious peace. Music and food passing travelers stop. The Tao that is spoken out of the mouth is bland and without flavor. Look at it, it cannot be seen. Listen to it, it cannot be heard. Utilize it, it cannot be exhausted. If one wishes to shrink it, one must first expand it. If one wishes to weaken it, one must first strengthen it. If one wishes to discard it, one must first promote it. If one wishes to seize it, one must first give it. This is called subtle clarity. The soft and weak overcomes the tough and strong. Fish cannot leave the depths. The sharp instruments of the state cannot be shown to the people. The Tao is the constant in non-action, yet there is nothing it does not do. If the sovereign can hold on to this, all things shall transform themselves, transformed yet wishing to achieve. I shall restrain them with the simplicity of the nameless. The simplicity of the nameless, they shall be without desire. Without desire, utilizing stillness, the world shall steady itself. High virtue is not virtuous, therefore it has virtue. Low virtue never loses virtue, therefore it has no virtue. High virtue takes no contrived action, and acts without agenda. Low virtue takes contrived action and acts with agenda. High benevolence takes contrived action and acts without agenda. High righteousness takes contrived action and acts with agenda. High etiquette takes contrived action and upon encountering no response, utilizes arms to pull others. Therefore the Tao is lost and then virtue. Virtue is lost and then benevolence. Benevolence is lost and then righteousness. Righteousness is lost and then etiquette. Those who have etiquette are a thin shell of loyalty and sincerity, and the beginning of chaos. Those with foreknowledge are the flowers of the Tao and the beginning of ignorance. Therefore the great person abides in substance and does not dwell in the thin shelf. In the thin shell, abides in the real and does not dwell on the flower. Thus they discard that and take this. Those that attained oneness since ancient times. The sky attained oneness and thus clarity. The earth attained oneness and thus tranquility. The angels attained oneness and thus divinity. The angels attained oneness and thus holiness. The valley attained oneness and thus abundance. The myriad things attained oneness and thus life. The rulers attained oneness and became the standard for the world. These all emerged from oneness. The sky, lacking clarity, would break apart. The earth, lacking tranquility, would erupt. The angels, lacking holiness, would vanish. The valley, lacking abundance, would wither. Myriad things lacking life would be extinct. The rulers lacking standard would be toppled. Therefore, the honored utilizes the lowly as basis. The higher utilizes the lower as foundation. Thus the rulers call themselves alone, bereft, and unworthy. Is this not utilizing the lowly as basis? Is it not so? Therefore the ultimate honor is no honor. Do not wish to be shiny like jade. Be dull like rocks. Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim, Allah Abha. Deus nossa aqui sentela som da fakita na matum vai gusanam. Da ko da fe hunta. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher gazalnu bo mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'suk b'dvar Torah. Kyrie eleison. Sivu mastu sabjigatehem. Sabe sata b'avantu sukitata. Fagabia. Ubuntu. Shabana. Fregako. Akwaba. Upendana amani. Umejekam. Shishe. Kamosanida, Domo Arigato, Pilama Yellow Walk and Talk, Adokoshin, Good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go, Mother God. Ata Jama Yatafanami, Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim. Allah Wabha. Deus nos aqui as enchelas são fakita no mentum bahig gusaman. Dau kadau fehunda. Ja. Lukhata Arnai Elohim Melech Alam Ashikatan Bam Zatav Zivan Super by Torah. Kiri Elisam. Silva Mastu Savjigatahi. Sabe Sata Bavantu Sukitata. Vagabia. Ubuntum Shabana. Fakako Aquaba Upinana Amani. Umajikam. Shishin. Kamosunida. Domo Arigato. Pelama Yellow Wokan Taka. Tok Odoka Shingu. God, we thank you for that you bless us. Go with God. Ata Jami Yatafalami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Alhamdulillah, Rahmani Rahim, Allah Wabha, Deus nos de qui es in celis, sanctificito nomen tuum, vahigu saman, dau kodau fehum dau, Ja, Baruchata Arnai Elohinu Melech Alam Hamotzi Lachem Min Haaretz, Kiri Elesum, Sivumastu Savajagatehi, Sabe Sata Bavantu Sukitata, Vagabia, Ubuntu, Shabana, Vakako, Aquaba Upendana Amani, Woman Jacob. Shishe, Kamosunida, Domo Arigato, Pelama Yellow Wakantokan, Tok Odokashin Good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go remember God. Ata Jamayata Falami, Aho, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Amen. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Zaijen, Adios, Te Chakaris, Asumurgo, Kelego Fred. One love and peace.